Our next presenter is Amanda Maxwell. Raised and educated in Scotland, Amanda followed her husband to Canada in 2001 when he accepted what was to have been a short-term job posting. He went to work, she volunteered, at the aquarium and in an adaptive snowboarding program. Both fell in love with Vancouver and stayed. Their son was born, and they moved to Port Moody, where Amanda reclaimed her artistic side to try to make sense of her new life. Creatively, her work focuses around wire, metal, and fiber, leading to curious projects, combining wire crochet, metalworking, and art clay silver with traditional felting or embroidery. She loves to explore new mediums and is currently a part-time student in the Print Futures Professional Writing Diploma program at Douglas College. Amanda is constantly searching for the ultimate portable crafting project to fit in, around, and in spite of family life. Please welcome Amanda Maxwell.
Good evening. Expat homesickness is a really odd experience. Even if it's completely voluntary, there's still a profound sadness for being so far away from home. It's like being a tree, rooted in a distant land, but with your branches growing up into a strange new world. My expat adventure started on September the 1st, 2001, when I followed my husband to Vancouver. Our cat followed a couple of days later, our luggage and all our worldly belongings a couple of months later, but unfortunately our dog got stranded back in Heathrow in London because of a mystery skin disease. And then, of course, as you know, 10 days later, the whole world changed. Thankfully, I wasn't directly affected, and all my family and friends were accounted for. But I watched with sadness and disbelief as events unfolded on CNN. In the tiny sitting room of our rented apartment, I felt very much alone. I had no escape route to get back home to safety. 9/11 affected a lot of things, but we managed to stay on in Vancouver. Our son was born a couple of years later, dual citizenship, but 8,000 kilometres away from his grandparents. And the pull for my home got even stronger. He's now a seasoned international traveller, and we've been going back to the UK ever since he was 9 months old. And lately this has meant entire summers in Scotland, where we stay with my parents in the house that I grew up in, and we visit. All of my childhood haunts include playing on the beach and building sandcastles where my little sister and I used to build ours. We gather our treasures and return back to Canada every year with a couple of pounds of sea glass. So when I started making jewellery, I used the sea glass. I drilled and wrapped and wire crocheted it into little portable souvenirs of my home. They kind of made me less homesick because I was like a snail. I was carrying my home with me. Last year, I had my first solo exhibition at Port Moody Art Centre, and after a bit of humming and hawing, I thought, let's explore this homesickness thing, because after all, what had I been doing but exploring it with my art? I'd been making these little souvenirs into portable talismans that I could carry around with me as an antidote to my homesickness. Now, homesickness to me means a longing to feel safe and secure and connected. So I set about wrapping these chunks of sea glass to symbolise how fiercely I felt the pull back to my home and how I needed to feel safe and secure and connected. So I raised spiky metal claws from the sheets of metal and then bent them safely over the chunks to hold them in place on the copper. I then surrounded them with a cosy nest of the wire and felted fibre to show them how they could be safe and secure. I did the same with other treasures. I took the beach pebbles that my mum gathered from that same childhood beach, and I crocheted them into the middle of these exotic felted flower brooches. Each flower looked a little bit like ones that I'd seen in the garden when I was growing up. And not just things from the beach as well. I also raided my box of memories. I decided I would like to make new jewellery out of the pieces that had been left to me, like this necklace and bracelet set with the vintage glass beads that my grandmother and her twin sister would have worn. Not all of my homesickness pieces are for me alone. I find it quite ironic that sometimes the sea glass pieces get shipped back to the UK, It's almost as if my sea glass goes back to live there, but not me. And when I look back through my portfolio, I realize that this homesickness has been feeding my creativity, but the creativity has been helping me make sense of my new life here. All of my creative moments seem intent on reminding me of home, like this beach scene in embroidery, felted fibre on top of a wire crochet canvas. Look, there's even a tiny little Scottish seashell there nestling on the fibre beach. I also realised while working on the exhibition that even though I missed my childhood haunts, like my parents' garden, full of amazing colours and movement and shapes, I was actually recreating them here in Canada for myself, but not as a living, growing garden. I tend to kill things here. Instead, I'd be making them as pieces of wearable art, each one reminding me of the crazy flowers that I saw while I was growing up and the ones that I photograph when I go back every couple of years. I made a whole series of these wild, exotic cocktail rings, and they all reminded me of flowers that I'd photographed. After going through this, though, on exhibition day, something really, really odd happened. As I was setting up, I gazed into the mirrored back of the display case, and I saw myself next to Tanis, the co-exhibiting artist. Our names were up on the wall behind us, above her series of house panels. "We shall live here" was what she called them. Now, Tanis has been a friend and a collaborator for quite a time, and seeing her there with me reminded me that the homesickness had been getting in the way of me actually making a home here, that I had actually found somewhere to feel safe and secure and connected among amazing friends like these artists at another exhibition. And the change was happening in my art too. I wasn't feeling the pull back home quite as much. While my first homesickness tree, the one that you saw at the start, is rooted around Scottish sea glass, this one, the last in the series, is rooted around Sunshine Coast glass, and each branch has a tiny little maple leaf. Even the brooch pin is more permanently riveted in place rather than stitched with wire. "I shall live here," it seems to say. Though it was the title that I chose for the exhibition, my journey exploring homesickness eventually taught me that home is indeed where the heart is. I didn't realise quite how true until I finished. It doesn't matter how far you travel, home is always what you hold in your heart. Home is always with you. And for those of you who don't like loose ends, yes, he did make it eventually. He was trapped for 6 weeks with all the travel disruptions, but when he joined us in Vancouver, this chap certainly made Vancouver his home. Home was indeed where his heart was. Thank you very much.